All right, my room's slowly heating up. So let's record this fast. Fire Emblem The Sacred Stones is not a hard game. In fact, it's famously an easy one. With grinding available from the early game, a casual run is not plagued by many issues if you encounter any at all. Which is why I decided to make every combat encounter incredibly deadly. I made every attack a critical hit, which for all of you who don't know off the top of your head means that each attack does triple damage. 7 does 21, 8 does 24, and your multiplication tables. This basically means that Erica dies basically whenever she gets the chance, which means we get a game over basically whenever we get a chance. Actually, pretty much every character dies whenever they get the chance. So let's lay out the ground rules for this run. Every attack is a crit. And that's it. That's really the only change. Every weapon has a 200% hit and 200% crit chance. If units die, I either tank the hit or I restart the chapter. I'm not doing this as an Iron Man because I think that I'd actually go insane. So let's start. The prologue is played actually very differently from normal runs, specifically in the way that you use Seth. This is, of course, actually using Seth. Normally, Seth this early in the game is an EXP leech from Erica, who can easily take care of this chapter if you play it right. But here, if Erica attacks, she instantly dies to a 195% crit chance. So that's colloquially what is known as not the move. I try a few different ways to get this to work, but in the end, the strategy that works is this. Have Seth kill the two fighters, and then I do 9 times 3 in my head about 4 separate times to make sure it's a bigger number than 24. If nothing else, this run made me much better at mental math, but only when multiplying by 3. So I guess that's a benefit. Starting in Chapter 1, we learn our most important strategy. Constantly checking enemy ranges to make sure every character is safe because if they get hit, they die. It's a wordy strategy, but it usually works. Usually. Also in this chapter, we get one of our most useful units, Gillem. Now, Gillem is commonly known as the poor man's Oswin, because he's just Oswin from Fire Emblem 7, but with worse stats in almost every way. But in this run, as well as every run from when I was a child, we'll be using him quite a bit. This is because Gillem fully changes the game by being able to do something that barely any other unit can. In fact, only Seth can do it at this point. Actually take a hit without dying. Gillem's base defense is high enough that when he's hit, he'll only take 9 to 12 damage, which we can then heal through. We then implement the second strategy of the run, stealing Seth's weapons. Though this strategy is usually reserved for the other, notably Necrophilic Paladin in this game, here it allows Seth to not immediately kill every enemy that he encounters in this game, because otherwise, he will. I also forgot that reinforcements spawn on this map when Erica crosses this line, but because of their movement limitations, it all works out in the end. You can also see the moment in this chapter where I consider for more than 12 seconds to use Franz past Chapter 3. Don't ask me why I chose not to, because you won't like the answer. Chapter 2 has a fun mechanic known as green units. Now, this mechanic is fun because they aren't really programmed for the fact that they'll get crit every time they're attacked, so rescuing Ross and Garcia becomes absolutely, no pun intended, critical. And the speed becomes even more important. However, the math works out perfectly so that Garcia can survive an attack with exactly 1 HP, probably so the enemy doesn't crit against him in a normal game and you just instantly lose this unit. I then do some fancy rescue dropping to make sure that I have control over both these units as soon as I possibly can. I then visit the village for a completely useless red gem and begin actually having to strategize. You'll see why the red gem's useless later. Real quick, if you notice, all these brigands have 100 skill. That's my fault. I forgot to change it back because originally I was going to change everybody's skill and luck, but I figured just changing weapon stats would be easier. So I did that, but I didn't change the brigands back. It doesn't matter. I then tiptoe my way through the rest of the map, get a theoretically amazing Erica level up, and complete the map. Entering Chapter 3, I have a couple goals. Level up Ross, and level up Colm. Now, leveling up Colm may seem like a strange strategy in a version of the game where he's the soldier equivalent of the piece of glass held by 2 construction workers during a car chase, but I had an idea. If I could grind Colm to level 20 in the early game, then maybe he would be strong enough to deal with some of the other units in the early game without having to worry about him getting absolutely shattered. This plan, however, did not work because at the end of the day, glass is glass and glass breaks. However, I did waste 30 minutes of my time getting a unit with 6 hull defense, so really, who's laughing now? In Chapter 4, we stop bringing Franz and start bringing Colm, and really this chapter is pretty basic. You check ranges, get them wrong, restart the chapter, and repeat until you win. However, it is the first instance of me realizing that my Colm plan might not have been useless because of a skill called Silencer. Silencer is a skill on the Assassin class, which is a promotion from the Thief class that Colm is now, that instantly kills the opposing unit, no questions asked. Its trigger chance is half the unit's critical chance, and then it's halved again against bosses. In a world where critical chances are 200%, though, this theoretically makes it a 100% chance to trigger Silencer. However, the issue with this is that Colm is still made of glass, so even if he can kill everything in his path, everything in his path will just kill him first. Therefore, the level 20 grind is useless not only once, but twice, since I'd given myself hope. We also got loot, but I forgot to deploy her in a chapter where it matters, so, whoops, we're not going to use loot this run. Welcome to the chapter that took me multiple tries, and that I will never be going back to the beginning of in this run. In this chapter, there are a series of villages that can be raided, a unit that can only be recruited by your healer, and quite a few fighters who hit pretty hard. The good news is, if we can keep all the villages from being raided, then we get a guiding ring, a magical promotion item that could promote Ardor, Lute, or Natasha. The issue is I forgot to deploy loot on this chapter, and by the time I realized this, it was too late. You'll see. Once again, the strategy for this map is turtle and hope you don't get hit. The good news is this won't be the strategy much longer, because on top of everything already mentioned, this map has an arena. Now, arena grinding in Fire Emblem, especially the early games, is already dangerous. But now imagine that all of your units can be one-shot instantly when going against the wrong matchup. Also, you can't yield. Therefore, after carefully tiptoeing my way through the map, making sure to keep all the villages unraided, and recruiting Joshua, I began a 3-day process of grinding my units in the arena. So I don't know if you know this about me, because how would you, but I work a full-time job. For about 3 days, I went to work, came home, grinded in the arena, went to sleep, repeat. Now, if you're wondering why it took so long, here are some matchups the arena tries to give you. But I'm a creep. Not the best, so I had to keep rolling in the arena until we got a kind of glitchy guaranteed win. Then do that for 20 levels, and then do that for 5 units. Now the good news is I got to grind up Natasha, because she would heal them every time they leveled up in HP. So I grinded 5 units up to level 20, Vanessa, Gillum, Joshua, Erica, and Arthur. I also took Ross to level 10, and Natasha got to level 11. So overall, not bad. However, 3 more days of my life I'll never get back. Here's the good news. This chapter is easy. There is no bad news. Most units on this map only attack you when you get within their range, and so there's no worry about getting swarmed. And since you have so many horseback units, you can just outrange them. The hardest part is staying out of the magic user's range, but the good news is, as long as Ephraim doesn't die, you win this map, and whoever you lost comes back. This was such a breath of air after Chapter 5, and apart from the close call with Ephraim and Ford dying in this chapter, it was really a walk in the park. Chapter 6. At the top of Chapter 6, I realized that all of the audio I was recording on my microphone when I was recording gameplay didn't record. I realized this while watching it back, and so the 4 minutes of time where I decided between turning Ross into a fighter or a pirate, who knows what I said in there, because it doesn't take me 4 minutes to make a decision usually. This chapter is a bit different than any other chapter. 1, because it has Fog of War, and 2, because half of my units are gods now. Kind of. I still had to restart a couple times because of a couple mistakes. The thing is, at level 20, Gillum has 19 defense, which is insane for Chapter 6, but here's where stats get strange. Because realistically, only a few stats really matter. Skill and luck can be completely disregarded, because they affect hit chance and crit chance respectively. HP only really matters every 3 level ups, because whether you have 19, 20, or 21, someone who does 7 damage is still one-shotting you. Speed matters, but only kind of, because doubling an enemy only matters if you can survive a hit from them. So now, I give you a warning. Because though I beat Chapter 6 relatively easily, Chapter 7 isn't next. What is next is Gillum. Gillum at this point is one of our best units. With 37 health and 19 defense, he'll barely be taking any damage, and when he does, his 19 strength will easily deal with the enemy that hit him. His only detriment right now is his movement, because he's still a knight class, but we'll negate that soon with a promotion. He's way ahead on strength compared to average growths, and he's 1 point ahead on defense and 2 on resistance. I can't even really be upset about him being behind on HP, because the 2 extra resistance points are really going to help us out. Vanessa. While right in line when it comes to resistance, she's ahead on almost every other stat. Once again, I can't be mad at these level ups, and she's really good compared to her averages. Ardor. I was hoping for, honestly, a lot more from Ardor, especially since I forgot to bring loot onto the map with an arena, which would have been the ideal situation. But even though he's ahead on HP and really ahead on luck for some reason, he's otherwise not great. I'm hoping post-promotion he'll be better, and Slayer will make up for it, and we'll just be able to use him and not have to worry too much. Joshua. Joshua's very average, which means he's a great unit. While he's ahead on HP, it's not by much and is into the next survivability range, so it will only matter post-promotion. He has 2 extra defense, which is nice, but the lower resistance is going to be rough in some of the later chapters with more magical enemies on them. Colm. Colm is proving to me that I should not have spent all that time grinding him up. Erica. So this is the funny one, and the one that I'm actually upset about losing audio for. Because every time she leveled up, I was hoping for defense. I just wanted her to get more defense points. And then I realized she was at 14 defense. which is insane for Erica. She's currently 5 points ahead of her averages, and though she's behind on strength, the name of the game is survivability, which she definitely has, only being 1 HP behind her averages. With not being able to promote her until later in the game, I'm really happy with these stats, and more importantly, they're really funny. For Chapter 7, Vanessa dies late in, so I restart because I'm not losing a level 20 unit to my inability to see red squares. My main plan in this chapter is to level Ross as much as possible. As a fighter, he has high damage output, and I'm hoping that using Gillem's body as a living shield will help Ross not die at a young age. This plan actually ends up working pretty well, as a majority of this map goes very well. We have a close call with Coleman the Ballista, but with Natasha there, we're able to expend all 5 uses of it and move on. We also get an energy ring, which will be helpful. Then, Ross almost dies, once again due to my inability to see red squares, and after Gillem lures the archers down, we kill the boss with no problem. Kind of. You see, we don't exactly kill the boss immediately. I realized that I wanted more EXP on Natasha, so the first thing that I did is I just put Erica in front of the boss and had, him hit her over and over with his javelin and Natasha heal her through it. And then once his javelin broke, I did the exact same thing with his steel sword. And then once that broke, grinding Colm finally paid off and he stole the Knight's Crest from him. And before you ask me what I have against this guy, the answer is I had to play this chapter almost completely twice because Vanessa died, so I was feeling petty. At the start of Chapter 8, I make a big boy decision and promote Gillem, and though what I said here is lost of time forever, I like to think it was something wise, though it was about 4.5 minutes long, somehow longer than the Ross conversation, and was probably me going back and forth between General, a class that I really like, and choosing the correct choice. In the end, we promote Gillem to a Great Knight, which gives the bonus of making him virtually unkillable. To demonstrate this fact, I accidentally kill Seth and restart the chapter, and decide to make much better decisions. On this map, Ephraim and Co. show up and can be swarmed quickly, which normally isn't much of a problem, but in this run, that means instant death. So I send Gillem over there to take 6 damage max, and he quickly dispatches any issue that comes up. Then Seth dies again, so I had to restart the chapter and decide to make much better decisions. And then I do basically the same thing again, but with Erica's face instead of Seth, because she has better defense, because nothing here makes sense. Gillem, and his now 21 defense post-promotion, rescues Ephraim and Co., and then we continue to farm Natasha up by using a princess as target practice. I then go back to using older strategies of taking away Gillem's weapon so that Ephraim can gain more experience, something that won't matter when I inevitably choose Erica's route. Natasha reaches level 20 and has almost all worse stats than average, so I promote Ardor into Bishop mid-battle. This gives him the Slayer skill, which gives him bonus damage against monsters, as well as 3 more defense, for a big ol' 6 total defense. The rest of the chapter goes very smoothly, with Ardor taking over healing duties in order to get weapon XP, and Ford almost dying again. We get the Angelic Robe from the chest alongside the Elysian Whip, which I immediately send to Convoy so that Vanessa can grab it from across the map and promote into a Falco Knight, giving her 5 more HP and 2 more defense and resistance, as well as the ability to use swords. The rest of the chapter goes off without a hitch, and Ross kills the boss for what can only be described as a disappointing level up. And that's it. That's the first 8 chapters of Fire Emblem: The Sacred Stones with only criticals. I tried to summarize things, but there's a lot happening at all times in this run, and since you're still here, here's footage of when I sent Gillem into the Tower of Volney alone, and he ended the map having taken no damage but gained 3 HP and level ups. So I guess if worse comes to worse, that's my plan for grinding. I know this video is different and took longer to make than I would have thought. Not 2 months, I took off most of July because work got busy when it comes to editing, but I hope you enjoyed it or at least gave it a shot. There will be normal videos coming up, but to be frank, I got bored and wanted to try something new. I don't know if I'll finish part 2 of this. It probably depends on how happy I am with part 1. But videos should pretty much be back as long as I can actually motivate myself to record. Because the scripts are written. There's like 4 scripts written sitting in my on my hard drive right now. But yeah, until then, thanks for watching.